All right, 37 minutes past the 2 o'clock hour. You're listening to SMC Sports, 90.3 FM. Sean McChesney, Sean Martin, John Galletley on with me. And just got a text from our sports director, Sean. She's like, bet you have a lot to talk about Gino. And I'm like, that was the first 45 minutes of the show. And then she goes back, it's been the whole 24 hours, and she's right. Everybody's been talking Geno Smith for the last 24 hours, and I'm sure we're going to tie back into it before the show is over. But before we get into that, and Sean and I both made a bet yesterday, no notes, so time for S&S. So
I tweeted out with the WMSC Sports account.
I'm going to have to pick that up later. But So the topic this week, and the Mets have been white hot since the Kelly Johnson Uribe trade, is will the Mets win the NL East? Do you think the Mets will win the NL East? Obviously, you know my argument. Obviously, you know Sean's because he's a diehard Mets hater.
You don't even need to introduce this.
Sean, you're the visiting
I'm
team
just
here.
So I don't get fined.
Sean, you're the visiting team here. Open it up.
Well, you know, it's first of all, I do got to give some credit to the Mets and say it's been it's been a phenomenal season.
Typical.
To this point, they've exceeded my expectations by even being in this race and allowing for this S&S to happen. But it's time for the Nationals to win this division. Here's why. First of all, you know, you look at these teams and just the way they're built. And the Mets, you know, it's a great storyline. You have these young guys. They're playing loose. They're playing free. They're actually producing and not just going into, like, slumps that you see younger players go into. The pitching has been phenomenal, as it should be. But you look over at the Nationals. They have, I think, what you can call, when Harper comes back at least, and when some of the other injured players come back, a perfect balance between the young guys that you need to get through September without playing with all the pressure on their shoulders, but also having the veterans in place there that know that they're not going to let this Mets team this year catch them. They know that this is their division this year. It was supposed to be their division this year, and they know that this Mets team is really probably a year or two ahead of schedule when it comes to trying to come win this NL East. So they're going to step up to the challenge in September, I believe. They're going to outdo this Mets team, and I think the Mets are just going to hit a wall at some point and begin to fade. These players, a lot of these players on the Mets roster, especially the pitchers, have not experienced September baseball yet with the team in contention, and I think there's a lot of teams in the NL East that are capable of playing spoiler against the Mets. The Phillies have been playing a lot better. I'm not saying the Phillies are going to go sweep you guys, but they can take.
So the Phillies are going to win the NL East here, ladies and gentlemen.
No, the Phillies
plot twist.
The Phillies,
he called it.
The Phillies can beat the Mets a couple games, and you can't have those things happen if you're actually going to win this division. You can't lose to the bottom team in your division. The Braves have been wildly inconsistent, so you never know what you're going to get with them. And the Marlins, you guys seem to do pretty well against them at Citi Field, and then struggle when you go to Miami, and they have, of course.
You watched the last series?
Yeah. But, so I think it's an up and down division, and I just don't see this very young Mets team with young pitchers being the team that can make it through September, holding on to a very small lead, especially when you have a Washington team that knows that they were supposed to win this division coming into the season, and that it's their time to get this done, and I think they're going to prove that.
That's a good argument, and you have a lot of good points in there. Here's why I think your argument's invalid. So, Skip, listen up. Now, if the Mets were running into teams like St. Louis, Chicago, Pittsburgh, and the entire NL Central in September, I would be a lot more worried than I am right now. The Mets are going in with the lightest schedule going forward. Okay? You have a run-in with Pittsburgh this weekend, but after that, you've got Colorado, you've got Boston, Philly twice, and then you've got the entire NL East in September, which we talked about before. Even when the Mets were god-awful in June and July, that was their one bright point, was they did very well against the NL East. They always do well against Philly. They always do well against Miami. And, you said it, they struggled against Miami. Last time they went there, they won 3 straight. Now, the third game was a little whatever, but it happened. So you take a look at this Mets team, what they're doing right now. Yes, they're very inexperienced, but we'll get to that if they make the playoffs. I think they're going to win this NL East. Even when the Nationals were healthy, they were supposed to run away with this division, win 90 games, but they never did, even when this team was healthy.
So here's my thing. We all know how much I love pitching and how, I'm into that side of the game and how important it is to build a team around pitching. My philosophy is pitching will get you to September with a chance to win. To win in September, you need, obviously, the pitching to stay at the 12. It can't just all of a sudden drop off the face of the earth, because no team is going to be able to win that way. You need the pitching to stay where it has been, which you expect from the Mets, but in September you need the offense to come around and really have their best month in the season. It's why the Yankees, which we're going to get to, are struggling right now. The offense is just falling off the face of the earth, and the pitching has been all right, but the offense is not there right now, and we're starting to see these teams in the AL East start to get the bats going and hit those stretches as they make a march towards the playoffs. Veteran hitters know when it's time to start heating up again, and it's right about now, end of August, into September, and hopefully, if you're on a contending team, into the playoffs. I don't see anybody in this Mets lineup that's going to be a guy who you can count on to get a big hit in September.
You have to take a look, though, at what they've been doing right now, not with what the season has been, what they're doing right now.
Who's going to carry this offense?
Cespedes, you have him. You've never seen Kadire in a pennant race yet. I'm not saying Kadire's going to hit 30 home runs in 30 days. Well, you've never seen him in a pennant race yet, have you?
We'll see. Yeah.
So we'll see on that.
He's not going to start tearing the cover off the ball.
I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is these guys can be your guys to go in September. Again, you're playing a very weak NL East. Besides Washington, you're playing an NL East that you've done very well against, even in June and July, when you went 2 for the entire month of June.
Well, now these teams have nothing to play for except spoilers, so they're going to be playing hard, playing their best, some of their best baseball.
Here's the thing, and we could tie Toronto and New York into this as well. Right now, and we said this at the beginning of the year, the Mets had 0 expectations to win the NL East. They had expectations to win the wild card, but we all thought that Washington was going to run away with this division, win 100 games, and win the World Series.
And do you really trust Terry Collins to get this team to the playoffs?
Yes. Yes, I do.
No.
The minute Terry Collins opened his mouth, threatened his team, right away, Mets are winning They won 12 out of 15. They won 9 out of their last 11. They're one of the best home teams in the league. Now, I understand the majority of their upcoming schedule is on the road, but for the Mets to win, they have to beat these under 500 teams that completely suck, that they struggle have. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, last road trip, I think they did that. They won 4 out of 6 in Florida, a place the Mets never play well in. But when you take a look at what the Nationals have versus the Mets have no pressure at all because they had 0 expectations to win this NL East.
The pressure is absolutely there.
No. All the pressure is on Washington.
They're in the New York market contending for the pressure is on Washington, but there's also pressure on the Mets because you fans haven't seen this team be in the playoffs for years, and now you're saying, oh, well, they can win this division. We want them to win this division. Yeah, most of you guys aren't going to be crushed if they don't win it, but you're still expecting this team to win the division, and they want to live up to that.
With the team that the Mets have this year, literally no pressure. If they lose the NL East, they lose the NL East. If Washington loses the NL East, it was like they collapsed. It's a disgrace. Injuries, blah, blah, blah. First off, you can't blame the injuries for what they're doing right now.
There is pressure on this Mets team to finish this off and prove that they're not the same old Mets.
I don't think there is because you know what? I think all the pressure is on a dynasty Washington team that was supposed to be in the World Series.
So you're telling me if on September 18th they get swept by the Yankees and then go on and don't win another baseball game the rest of the season and lose the division, all the Mets fans are going to be smiling and saying, "Oh, but what a great season!"
Listen.
No, they're going to say we're the same old Mets. We need to tear it down again because we can't win in the clutch time.
It's a little bit of a mix in there. Yes, obviously we're all going to be disappointed, but at the end of the day, it was a great season.
It's all that stuff. If
it happens to Washington, the fan base is going to be like, "What happened? We were supposed to win 100 games. Now we're not."
We're talking about the Mets. I don't care. The Nationals should win this division, but honestly, I don't care. Which way this goes. I just don't see the Mets being that team that can hold off a Nationals team that is going to make a surge at some point.
Well, you take a look at what the Mets have coming up versus the Nationals, and the only reason the Nationals are second easiest is because they run into St. Louis at the beginning of September. But you take a look at the series that the Nationals have played. I believe, like we said before, Arizona and Colorado, they were 4-7 in that stretch. Lost 4 out of 7 at home. And each game they had a chance to win. Bottom of the 8th inning in Nationals Park, Carlos Gonzalez hits a grand slam. Crushed it. And now you're starting to worry, with Jonathan Papelbon, this bullpen is starting to struggle. Strasburg has come back, but he's not the same old Steven Strasburg anymore because he gets hurt every 5 minutes. Now you have Bryce Harper on the DL. You could blame injuries for this, but at the end of the day, it's no excuse. Now, I've said this a million times. Healthy Nationals lineup versus the Mets, it's Nats over the Mets. But as of right now, you're going to say, oh, it's because of the injuries. Who cares? The Mets are 2.5 in the NL East. That's all I care about. That's all that's really mattering right now.
So you're going to take a team in September that has no experience with being a team that has proven that they can pull off and hold a lead in the division. Has not only that, but has proven the exact opposite, that they will find any way at all to collapse and just crush their fan base with the most embarrassing collapses of all time. a young lineup with no set, superstar, no guy that's really been proven that can carry this offense. A lot of guys that have shown promise, but no guy that has really shown that he's going to put this lineup on their back in September. And a solid pitching staff of young guys who also don't know how to pitch in September. And they're going to hold off the Nationals and win the division.
My dad did just text me, and he said the Mets were winning the NL East. He said that last March. So, But point is, Sean, the way the Nationals have been playing, and you're absolutely right with this team in September. If they were playing contenders like St. Louis or Kansas City,
they haven't shown one reason why you should trust them in September. They're the Mets.
But they've showed you a reason why you should trust them right now.
It's not September yet.
Okay, but it's August and the Mets are relevant. When was the last time you could say that?
Yeah, and that's a great step. But it's going to take until the very last day of the season, especially since you're playing the Nationals that day.
How can you collapse against a division that you have thrived the entire year, even when you were playing terrible? You even look at this Washington team, again, when they were healthy, they never ran away with this division.
Well, you have to play the Yankees in there, too.
Okay, that's 3 games.
That's 3 losses.
Yeah, 3 losses. Okay, we'll see. And not only that, speaking of that, I feel like the fan base has helped as well. The fan base has been everywhere since the trade deadline. They've been all over Citi Field. They've been all over Marlins Park. They've been in Tropicana Field for 3 games. It was the biggest crowds they ever had all year long.
September 18th, this all comes crashing down.
Yeah, September 18th.
That's my dream scenario.
Of course. You want to know why? Because you're a horrible human being, that's why.
The Mets host the Marlins on the 16th, and then they have an off day the 17th, and then they host the Yankees to open the series on the 18th. My dream scenario for this team has to be they're coming off a sweep against the Marlins to extend the lead. The off day, all you hear about on the fan is them running away with the division.
You hear that right now?
Yeah. All you hear on the 17th is them running away with the division and opening a series against the Yankees, and then 18th, 19th, and 20th they get blown out.
Yeah, sure, Sean, whatever.
That's the dream scenario right
there. Yeah, exactly, in your dreams.
Well, it could happen, but I'm not saying that specific scenario is going to happen, but I don't think this team is going to have what it takes to win the division.
The way it is right now, this team is white hot right now. Dude is white hot. Even Lagares. And you know what the other thing is?
How long can a team stay this hot?
The thing is, though,
like the Blue Jays right now, they're not going. If they stay this hot, they're the best team in baseball history.
Here's the thing, though, and I just realized this with everything that was going on before, and everyone's like, "Oh, the Mets need a bat. They need a bat." No, they needed a bench. So they get Juan Uribe, they get Kelly Johnson. Now you've got like 6 guys who can come on and off the bench and start. And ever since that happened, all of these guys are producing and are doing very well. Juan Lagares is an example. He went 3 for 5 last night. Flores another. Tejada, Johnson, Uribe, Conforto. Ever since that happened, I feel the pressure has been relieved. They're not everyday starters anymore. And I think you're right. Those are their roles, and they play better in them. They didn't need a bat. They needed a bench. And ever since that came in, the Mets have been thriving. They won 9 of the last 11. They're 40-18 at home. So how can you sit here and say that the Nationals, with the team that they have right now, 6 of their prime guys on the DL, their bullpen is struggling. They've lost 8 of their last 13. How can you say they're going to get hot and win the NL East?
Every team is, I mean, obviously any team that's in some contention right now is going to, their goal is to start heating up and making a push for the rest of August and September. But usually you see if a team's hot at this point in the season right now, so let's take the Mets and the Blue Jays as 2 teams that are hot right now, either one or 2 things is going to happen. They've either established themselves as a really good team that's going to stay hot and carry all the way into the playoffs, which we've seen in the past. We saw with the Royals last season, which I don't think the Mets are going to be that team. Or they're due for a cool-down period sometime soon, which isn't good, and then they're scrambling to try to win the division in a tight pennant race in the last week of the season. That's where I see the Mets being more. I think they're going to cool down sometime soon. Not collapse, just cool down.
I would agree with a cool down, yes, but I don't think it's going to hurt
team, and they're going to have to fight to the last day of the season to win this division. And you can't tell me that the New York Mets, in a big game to win the division, you can trust them to win that game.
With their pitching staff?
Based off what you've seen. With a young pitching staff that has no idea what it's like to pitch in these games.
You know, you're right. But you know what? This is the most relevant that this young pitching staff has been. But you look at the Nationals, who there knows how to pitch in a big game and win? You saw their last 2 divisions. Okay, Scherzer. But what if you don't get Scherzer in that weekend? What if you get Strasburg, or you get Zimmerman, or you get Gonzalez? Because those guys don't know how to pitch in big games either. Did you watch the 2012 and 2014 division series? The Nationals got completely destroyed by St. Louis and San Francisco in those series. They don't know how to win in big games either.
Yeah, no one's beating the Cardinals this year in the NL anyway. I think we know that.
I think we can come to an agreement on that.
Whoever wins the NL East is in trouble in that regard.
Because it looks like wouldn't the wild card team play the best team?
Yeah.
Okay, so it would have to be.
We could have Cubs Cardinals.
That'd be interesting. But the point is, though, as we get back into this in closing arguments, I'll go first, you'll go second. The way this Mets team has been for the last, 3.5 weeks has been unbelievable. The Mets have never been this relevant in August. They have a 2.5 game lead. The Mets are thriving against Colorado, and this Washington team is absolutely struggling and can't find a way to win. They lost 8 of their last 13. They can't win at home anymore. And the bullpen is nowhere to be found. And yes, you could blame the injuries, but at the end of the day, that is no excuse for you to lose this NL East. Even with the team that you had going into opening day, people were still giving this team 90 wins if those 8 guys didn't come back.
I don't need a lengthy closing argument. It's New York Mets baseball. You can trust them all you want. They're going to let you down at some point. That's it.
How is that a fair argument?
It's true. The Mets always find a way to let people down.
2007 and 2008 were probably the worst. After that, baseball was irrelevant in July. You've got a team right now.
This team's going to find. I don't know how they're going to do it, but they will find a way to let you down.
This team right now controls its own destiny. You know that? They have the lightest schedule in the league. I see John
That's even more. That's even more the reason for that they're going to collapse.
How?
They're going to take this schedule too lightly to be like,
no, they're not.
Can I just say something?
They're acting like a team that deserves to be here.
I think the minute Sean suggested that the Mets losing to the Phillies was his biggest argument made me go to his side. Made me go to the other Sean's side.
I'm not going to get swept by the Phillies, but I'm saying the Phillies are playing better baseball.
But you're using the worst team in baseball as your
an
argument.
example, exactly.
Come on now.
It's not like they have a ton of games.
You're pulling at strings, man.
It's not like they have a ton of games with the Phillies left.
I had said earlier in the argument, when it comes to these guys playing September baseball, if you ran into St. Louis and Chicago, he would have a good point. But you're running into 4 teams that you have played very well against, including Washington, this entire season. You got Philadelphia, Miami, Atlanta, Washington, repeat for 30 days. Okay? If you were playing a St. Louis or a Los Angeles, I would be concerned with these young guys going into September. I have full confidence.
So you have a division full of players that have never seen the Mets play this well, and you know all these other clubhouses, the Marlins, Phillies, and Braves are talking about is, let's go beat this Mets team and knock them off the division lead. These players in these clubhouses have never seen the Mets in the lead for the division, and they want to go play spoiler and show that this isn't their division. This is going to be, in the next couple of years, that team's division.
But how can you say, and I understand 2009 and 2014, the Mets have disappointed people, but that happened in July. The last time it happened in 2008, that was September. Last time that happened, Carlos Gomez was still on the team. We were itching to get rid of him. You can't really put up an argument that the Mets always let you down in September or whatever, because it hasn't happened in 6 years.
Not necessarily in September, and at some point they find a way to let you down at any point in the season.
From 2009 to 2014, there was no hope for this Mets team to go to the playoffs. We all knew what we were signing up for. This year, with what we have been seeing, with a 2.5 game lead in the NL East, and the Nationals already starting to show cracks and to fall apart. Harper's out. Span is out. Everybody's out. The bullpen is falling apart. Papelbon can't throw a strike for his life right now.
Those guys are expected back, though.
They're expected back, but and here's the thing, and this is what I'm going to close with. By the time they come back, I think it's going to be too late.
False.
Well, we'll see.
No.
So that'll conclude S&S. That was probably one of our most heated arguments, probably besides Winston Mariota.